Hi, David Hood here, the Dallas SEO Geek, and this is an SEO strategy overview. This will not cover all strategies. It will just be a high-level overview of the different angles, the different ways to approach SEO, and the different pieces you need to the puzzle to have a relatively complete and whole strategy for your search engine optimization. Now, there's two major pieces to SEO, or two major buckets that you can put all parts of SEO into: on-page and off-page. And we're going to start with on-page. This essentially has to do with what goes on your site. You pretty much have complete control over this, and what you need to do for it is relatively simple. And again, it's pretty much completely under your control. That doesn't mean that people don't mess it up all the time. Now, a lot of people will look at on-page SEO and they'll give you even more than this. It's really not this busy. You don't need to know this many things. A lot of this stuff is just minutia that doesn't really matter, or that is automatically set up for you, or that takes 3 minutes to set up, or again, might not even be relevant, or might not even be needed when you do the things right. In fact, I did shoot another video called Top 3 On-Page SEO Factors, and I'm going to put a link below to that video so that you can watch that to get a little bit more of an idea. Really, there's only 3 things that you really need to focus on to do 99% of what makes you rank from an on-page SEO standpoint. There's a lot of stuff in website analysis. What's that? That's kind of both. I mean, of course you're going to analyze competition analysis. Well, this is both on-page. This doesn't even make sense. And this is not the worst one that I've found. You know, there are some things that are kind of semi-on-page, like your domain name, your hosting, your content management system. WordPress is an example of a content management system. The content you create is sort of on-page as well. It can fit with an off-page depending on how you use that content. Since I've already shot a video on the top 3 on-page SEO factors, I won't talk about it too much. I'll just list them very quickly to say that for a single page isolated, there's really 2 major factors that accounts for 90 to 95% of what causes it to rank: the URL and the title. And then the third factor is how your pages interlink. Okay, if you get all 3 of those correct, you're going to rank. You're going to rank well. And some of the other minutia stuff might help you rank a little bit more, but generally speaking, there's going to be other high-value things you can do. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule that applies across the board, but generally speaking, this is very true. And so, you know, I wouldn't spend too much time trying to do all the little details, optimizing all of your meta tags, W3C validation, you know, that sitemap creation, robots.txt. You know, some of that stuff is kind of important, but ultimately, you know, it's not going to make or break you if you do or don't do it. The other bucket is off-page SEO. Now, Google, this was Google's major development about 20 years ago. What made them have higher quality results, which resulted in people using their search engine more. They came along and they looked at what pages and sites are referencing your website in the form of a link as a whole. And other search engines didn't do this. They just looked at your page, and if you had the term Dallas dentist in there more than anyone else, you tended to rank higher than them. And that's why in the late 90s, I don't know if you remember, but there would be pages that it looked like they were just blank for many, many pages at the bottom. But really what it was text. It was the color of the background, and if you highlighted it, you could see all the different words they stuffed in there hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, just copying and pasting, and it worked, right? And so off-page SEO is a core part of Google's algorithm. A lot of people think at some point links will not be a part of their algorithm. Well, I can't predict deep into the future, but in the near term, for the next 5 years, Google will definitely use links. Now, they might evaluate them slightly different. They might just come up with new metrics for evaluating them, but generally speaking, links are still important. They've even stated they keep testing algorithms internally that don't include links, and the search results are terrible, and it's not even close. And so even though the fact that a lot of people in SEO do links and they focus on links, the search results are still better with the links, okay? And probably the best single metric you can look at is the domain authority of your site. This is actually provided by a company called Moz, and it's a good measure of the overall power going to your site from an off-page standpoint, from a link building standpoint. It's an exponential scale from 0 to 100, so 30 is probably about 10 times more powerful than 20. It's not that simple. That's not the exact number. I mean, YouTube is 100 and the average site is 20. YouTube is billions or trillions or infinity, practically, more times powerful than a domain authority 20 site. Now, domain authority isn't everything. There's an interesting concept called trust rank or trust flow, or the trusted seed set. Essentially, there was a study done a while back on how close sites were to a trusted seed set of sites. And so a trusted seed set would include really massive sites that you've heard of before: Google, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, massive authority sites. And they found that if someone's site was heavily linked to by trusted seed sets, and they were much less likely to be spam. The further away your links get from that trusted seed set, the more likely chance that you get to be spam. Okay, and so what are the implications of this? First of all, there's a concept called trust flow, which essentially, is the how far away you are from the trusted seed sets, how far each link is away. Whenever you link to a page, which links to a page, it's pushing through some of the trust. So if you have a Facebook page that links to one page and links to another page, and that page links to another page, some of the Facebook stuff actually makes it to the page, not necessarily the page it's linking to, but the page that it's linking to, that one's linking to, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's not too confusing. So we really want to look at how much trust flow we have. There's a company called Majestic that is the best right now that I'm aware of measuring trust flow and how trusted your site is. And they have another metric called citation flow. So essentially, you want your trust flow to be at least half your citation flow, and sometimes it can be even the same as citation flow or even greater, and that's awesome. But if the reverse is true, if your citation flow is really high and your trust flow is really low, that's an indicator of spam, and Google is certainly going to notice that. So let's say you had a trust flow of 10 and citation flow of 50. That's really bad. You're probably going to be penalized or filtered or downgraded significantly due to that. On the other hand, if your trust flow is 20 and your citation flow is 20, that's really good, and you're gonna need less links to rank, and you're gonna be much safer against any penalties. So it's something to definitely think about if you're looking at your off-page SEO. YouTube is kind of on-page and off-page, but in YouTube you can link to your site. You can link to your digital assets from YouTube, and YouTube is a very powerful site. It's a very trusted site. These are trusted links, and you can take those YouTube videos, you can put them on your site in multiple places, and there's all sorts of benefits from YouTube. It's outside the scope of this video, but it's one of many places where you can get links. Your social accounts, your Twitter account, your Facebook account, you can link back to your site. These are trusted links. They're not going to hurt you, generally speaking. Another thing with all of my clients is no spam anywhere near your site. This is my promise to you. Never. It's not even worth it. It used to be, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this would be something that would actually rank. You could spam the crap out of a site, and it would rank. And now Google's very good at sniffing that out. That doesn't mean that it can't work, and that doesn't mean that there isn't a way to make spam work. There definitely are ways, and there are people who are very good at it. But you have to be very advanced, and it's very easy to mess up. It's like using a grenade. You have to know how to use the grenade. If you don't know how to use it, you could blow yourself up, and that's not what we want, right? Okay, so here's a couple sort of like outside the bucket, both on-page and off-page, which is penalty or filter recovery. I'm very experienced at taking someone's site that has been penalized and getting the penalty removed. And 2 of the major penalties out there that most people who are affected by penalties are hit by are called Panda or Penguin. These are algorithms that Google uses to algorithmically penalize someone. So it used to be most of the penalties were manual. So an actual person would have to go on and review the site. Now Google can look at certain metrics and analyze data en masse and say, this is fishy. Something's really fishy here. No, slapped, right? And there's a website called SEMrush, SEMrush, where you can put your site in, and it'll actually give you a graph that can show you over time approximately what kind of rankings you've gotten, and so you can see if you've gotten a penalty and when. And a lot of times you can tell based upon just that, like when it happened and how it looked on which one of these penalties you got hit by. I did shoot a separate video on that as well, so please check that out. And let's see. So other parts of your SEO strategy, it's not necessarily here's the 17 actions you need to do and you'll rank really well. There is a do, measure, pivot, repeat, repeat, repeat. That's a little bit of what a lot of what SEO is. You know, you do some stuff, you see how Google responds, and then you move forward from there. And so exactly how Google responds depends on what you want to do. Sometimes maybe not your #1 search phrase, maybe your third most important search phrase bumps up really highly suddenly, kind of out of the blue, and you're like, well, let's run with it. You know, that's where you're getting your traffic for. Let's run with it, and let's get that going, right? There's all sorts of weird stuff that can happen. You have competitors come along. You could have someone do negative SEO to your site. There's just too many different possibilities for me to describe in this right here. You know, there's also unique opportunities in different areas. Even if it's the same company that are serving the same exact market, they still can have unique opportunities. But when you're talking about different companies in different markets and different cities, there's all sorts of opportunities. And a lot of that depends on what your business model is. What are you looking for? Who's your target market? What areas do you want to target? You know, there's different localized terms. By that I mean someone types in adds the word Dallas to a search phrase, or adds the word Plano. All sorts of different local city names or state names or anything that is a location. Sometimes suburbs or even areas or zip codes. Now these are all important things to consider. What's your current rankings in traffic? This is really important. You know, what a site that is fully developed and has already some decent rankings, their plan is very different from the same exact company with the same exact goals with a brand new site or no site at all. The steps that you need to take are different. Okay, you know, what other digital assets do you have? Sometimes people have an authoritative YouTube channel. They put a lot of YouTube videos up that have been viewed a lot and shared a lot and liked a lot. That's a very valuable digital asset. That's something that needs to be incorporated into the plan. You know, what kind of offline marketing you're doing. This matters a lot. A lot of times this will show up in terms of branded searches. If you're doing a lot of offline marketing, let's say companies that they do radio or direct mail or TV, and their brand name is searched a lot in Google. In fact, that's the vast majority of their search volume. That's not really organic traffic. If someone is searching for your brand, you should be found. Okay, but this helps. This helps give your site more authority. Google sees your brand name and they see that it's being searched, and it gives you a boost. It definitely makes you a lot safer in general. So that's all good, and that's something that should be considered. Another part of SEO is consistent, aggressive improvements. Okay, and this is to the processes of SEO. Now, I have shot another video on why SEO seems to be so chaotic. The core principles of SEO and how to rank in Google haven't really changed that much, but what changes more often are people's techniques or tools around how to rank in the search engines. That changes more often. So it's very important to really be aggressive in trying new things and learning from the best. This is something that I focus on, and it also makes it very hard for someone to have an in-house SEO person unless you're a really big company and you can really invest in their personal development on a regular basis. I don't even want to tell you how much money I spend every year on buying training from the best people. I mean, it's a 5 figures, well into the 5 figures every year, and over the last couple of years, I'm sure it's spanned over 6 figures. Okay, and this doesn't even include my own testing. I have lots of test sites. I'm constantly testing new techniques. I'm isolating, being very scientific about it. I'm testing different concepts. I'm coming up with my own techniques. Okay, this is something that's very important for any company. I don't care if they're the best in the world right now. If they're not committed to consistent, aggressive improvements of their SEO, they're going to fall behind. Period. That's just the way it works. Yes, there are updates to Google's algorithm that you need to pay attention to. Some you don't need to. Sometimes they make public statements that are it's a red herring. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to pay attention to it and try to do your own testing and really try to be aggressive with it. And that's a lot of what my time is spent on. Trying to get better, figuring out new things, testing, confirming that something works and how well it works, so that we can skip past the stuff that works just a little bit, but then this other thing works 10 times more. Let's do that first, right? That's very important. So this is very important to your SEO strategy because you need to stay up to date. So I appreciate your watching this video. Let me know what you think. And if you need help with an SEO strategy, please feel free to contact me. Go to my website, DallasSEOGeek.com, and fill out a discovery form. And I'd be glad to take a look at your strategy and try to improve it and go from there. So have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.